that I don't think young people today are even going to be attracted to organizations that still believe that and operate that way going forward into the future. And I would say that in the Indian culture, Indian women have got access to that kind of power. Adapt your style with certain people because they like it short and sweet, make it quick.
In fact, when you and I were together one time in Singapore, you told me this example of, the cricket example. Everybody wants to hit a sixer every time and always be on top of their game. We women carry that perfection trap too, And so it's not possible, right, to always be everything to everybody. It's pretty good if you can keep most of the people happy most of the times, right? So excellence is, I think, also about being able to choose which areas you're going to focus on in order to provide that excellence. Maybe there's another area that will have to wait on the burner, but it'll come back and you'll give the excellence there. Does that make sense?
Well, I think it makes great sense. And let's use those 6 levels of service to talk about what is excellence. Certainly, if you're at the level called expected, if you go below that and you don't serve someone or provide someone with what they expect from prior conversations, or maybe you have a contract, or maybe you have job responsibilities, whatever it may be. If you don't do that, then you're not creating value, you're actually degrading value. You're even destroying value. So you don't really want to go below the level of expected, which doesn't mean I did what was expected of me with my procedures and my process. No, no, no. It means, did you do what the other party expected you to do? But if you get to the next step up, which is called desired, and you serve someone the way they like it, the way they hope for, the way they prefer, well, you're going to get a very different reputation as a champion woman leader, for example. In other words, to adapt your style with certain people because they like it short and sweet, make it quick. But then there's other people or teams where they really appreciate having the opportunity to connect a little bit emotionally first or explain the whole thing. Okay, that's a leader's sensitivity to understand what does the other party desire. Now, once you know what somebody prefers, you could start to think more creatively and come up with a next step that they didn't even ask for or expect. And if you do it and they like it, it's like getting a little gift. So we call that surprising. That doesn't mean that in every situation, for every organization, customer, client, colleague, whatever it may be, or family member, that you need to go around as a woman and say, well, to be excellent, I have to do surprising, surprising, surprising. That's not sustainable. Ideally, you serve other people the way they want it, they appreciate it, desired. You hold as an excellent minimum for yourself that you're going to do what was expected. There was an underlying human promise there to take care of one another. And it's totally okay to focus your improvement efforts on specific situations, recipients of your service, colleagues, internal issues, and say, that's the one I'm going to find the next step up. And let the other ones be where they are. Keeping in mind, the stairs are always slipping down. So if you're at the expected level, you can't just leave it there and not also review, because otherwise someone else may have stepped up in that area. And by default, your normal practice will have dropped down to just basic.
So you should be working at the desired level and some surprises. Great.
And just don't slip below expected.
Don't slip below expected. That's more doable. And we women can do this both at home and at work. So it's a great tip.
Yes.
It's a great toolkit from Uplifting Service. So here's my thought. Many women face challenges in the career progression, right? Because of or unconscious biases in the workplace. What lessons from world-class service cultures have you seen that can help organizations create this environment where women can just thrive?
Yeah, which may include an issue of how do you encourage that woman to start a family? How does the culture of the organization support someone whose biological experience of growing in life is going to offer her the privilege, the
Mm.
sacred opportunity to bring forth new life. And to say, well, that's outside the scope of concern of our company,
Mhm.
that has nothing to do with our quarterly results. So, if she gets pregnant, she's out and definitely no longer on the career path. That
Mhm.
is so old in terms of thinking that I don't think young people today are even going to be attracted to organizations that still believe that and operate that way going forward into the future. It's been demonstrated over and over again that when you have a diverse team, not just culturally diverse, not just generationally diverse, but gender diverse, you end up getting better actions, better choices, better decisions, more valuable performance from that team.
Mm.
So then leaders and cultures need to be thinking about, how do I design this culture so that my best talent, male and female, say, I want to build my career here,
Mm.
not just I'm here to perform on the job. So if you are a leader and you're still at that short-term thinking of, she can't perform right now because of that, I'm going to sack her. Boy, are you missing the boat in
Yeah.
terms of the longer-term value for not just your organization, but everyone in it. Because when you're demonstrating that kind of sort of only immediate numbers matter, why should people stay for you? Why should they give that extra effort for the organization when the company needs it? But on the other hand, if you really say this is the culture we're committed to building, people will commit their lives
Mm.
to taking good care of the company and all the colleagues and all the customers
Mhm. Mhm.
because you set a context, a cultural environment that takes good care not just of women, but of humanity.
So, Ron, my sort of last prepared question today is how do you, I mean, you beautifully described this as culture of confusion, and that can happen when leadership is all over the place a little bit. How can you get that to an aligned leadership um, domain?
Yeah, yeah. And I understand you're asking the question of many organizations that we come to. They'll say, we have product development, and then we have manufacturing, and then we have warehousing, and then we have distribution, and then we have pricing, and then we have sales, and then we have marketing, and then we have HR, and then we have IT. Oh, and then we have customer service. Like as if service is a department or it's a function. Yeah. The first thing we do is we get our organizational clients to recognize that service is taking action to create value for someone. Well, then tell me again, what was product development for? Oh, it's to create value with a new product. And what is manufacturing's job? Well, it's to create value by having products that are going to be reliable and cost effective, et cetera. And what is sales' job? Well, to help other people see the value that your products and services can provide. And what was marketing? Well, to put the promise out there in the market in a manner that attracts people who can then talk to sales. And you get my point. Everything is service. Internally, the IT department, the finance department, the HR department, their job is to take certain actions. What's the purpose of the actions? To create value for the organization, for the employees. So rather than service being over there, service is the big picture. It's like the canvas on which all of these various functions arise and perform. And that critical shift of understanding helps a culture get from what we call a confused culture to an aligned service culture. Then the
That makes
question is, how do all these functions work together to create the greatest value internally with each other and externally with those that we serve?
great. So, Ron, I know you had India experiences 100 times, but your most recent one, do you have a story of having met a woman who was maybe your audience or a person in a company? And is there something that strikes you how Indian women are going to actually succeed even more in the 21st century? What is one value that you admire about us? And what is one area you would like us to work on to get better in?
Very good. Thank you. So I was in Mumbai recently, and I had two different experiences with women that I'll use to answer your question. One is I was in the car and I was being taken from the convention center back to the hotel, and it was Mumbai traffic. So you can imagine. And there we were, and we were somewhere, and all the horns are blaring. And we turned a car, and there was a woman standing in the street, and she was ripping into a driver. I mean, she was just howling at this guy. He maybe he ran the red light, or he wasn't doing what she thought she should have done. But my goodness, the level of vigor and energy and anger and the expression of like, wow. And I would say that in the Indian culture, Indian women have got access to that kind of power and the ability to express with that kind of intensity that's right there.
Mhm.
Okay. The other experience was that I was getting ready to give a speech for the Speakers Association of India, a whole tribe of great friends of mine, and they're my peeps. I'm in the Speakers Associations all over the world. And there was a woman there who was one of the organizing committee members. And it was the day in the morning, and we were about to start, and there were audio visual issues and distributing of materials. And I could just see she was stressed out. And there were other people spinning around. And I just looked at her and I said, may I? Like, may I have permission? And she looked at me, what? And I said, well, may I have permission to just, and she got it. Like, okay. And I said, great, have a seat. And she just sat down in front of me. And I said, okay, now let's take a breath together. Okay. And you could see it was like, she was hard for her to even settle into her body to do that. I said, great, let's do it again. And another time, one more time after that. Okay, one more time. Well, by that time, all of the other people that were spinning around us, they'd sort of just sensed that something very calming was going on. And at the end of just 4 breaths, she was in a totally different place. Now,
Lovely.
it was lovely for me. It was lovely for her. It was lovely for everybody else. My answer to your question is, I think that women and men will benefit a lot from being aware of, I'm triggered. Here's what's going on in the environment. This is what I feel called to do. Here are the expectations. What's on the schedule? We all live in that kind of a world. And we all live in a world of, how's my body doing? Where's my level of energy? How's my breath? Am I calm? Is this the right state in which I should now respond, react, reply? Or you know what? Just give me a moment. And then bring it on. And in our culture, taking that moment, it's absurd how rare that's become.
Yeah.
Like if you watch a news show, they're just constantly interrupting. It's almost like a fight on the street is happening, and that's being role modeled like this is good, vigorous conversation. Yeah, but how much awareness and centeredness and really high quality conversation are you going to get unless we can also be our best selves and be able to calibrate that?
So both are important. Use your power, Indian women, and take the time to look after yourself and be aware of the calmness that is possible in just a few tools that you could use every day. We do this kind of mindfulness meditation in our workshops, and people resonate with it so much. It's funny, meditation was probably thought about in India, but is least practiced now in our country. So more and more people have to do it, I think.
Ranjani, I want to say something about that. Notice that it's like meditation. I'm saying, yeah, for sure. Do that this way, but also be willing, women leaders, champion women, to do it for other people.
Yes.
Be the person who says, hold on a second, let's just sit here for the well-being of others, because you and they are actually connected. If other people are not able to be their own best member of your team, then you're not going to be able to be the best champion leader that you want to be.
Right. Absolutely. So, Ron, I wanted to ask you one line or a phrase to describe your success mantra. What makes you this fabulously 30 among the 30 top global gurus? How did you get there? That I know, it's there all over the internet. But what is the one success mantra that you live by?
So there's a backstory of having a grandmother who taught kindergarten for 40 years, and she just took care of everybody. And my first experience of what's good service, for her, it was love. And then I got involved in this thing called Ultimate Frisbee all over the world for many years, during college, after college. And the first rule of the game is called the spirit of the game, which means if you're in the game, you're responsible for the quality of play and the spirit of the game. Okay? And then I got involved in service when I moved to Singapore, and it's all about action that creates value for others. And now, as you know, I'm working on my next book on care. And it's really the concern and commitment to the well-being of others. And through all of that, that one mantra that's come through for me is a life well lived contributes to the well-being of others.
That's lovely.
And so that's been sort of what drives me is how can I help? What can I do? How can I contribute? Because I get so much joy from that, as you can tell with this interview. I'm so grateful that you invited me for the joy.
I'm so proud that you did this. You became our tech guru, overqualified. You gave us your time. You extended that time. You've been such a great buddy to create value in our lives. Thank you, Ron. Namaste from India. And I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Namaste. Bless you. Bless you all.
Champion a woman, she will build the nation.